Good morning once more. I see the numbers are coming up. Welcome to everyone that's joined us this morning. Please note that we do have the chat box function available. Please let us know who you are and where you're from, and we'll be beginning the session in a minute. Thanks. Welcome, Dina. Welcome, Dina. We note welcome Sarah from Ghana. We see Debbie from UCT. There's Oliver from the Nelson Mandela Golden Key chapter, currently in Durban. Welcome Devon from Port Elizabeth. Welcome Kamogelo. Isha from Cape Town. Welcome Daniel. Welcome Dorozo. Good morning, Chile. Good morning, Lucky. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, June. Good morning, Victoria from Springbok in W. Potchefstroom. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're going to start exactly at 4 minutes past 10. Welcome, Jenna. Welcome, Bernice. Welcome, Katlecho from Wits. See, we have quite a large representation from all the different universities. Welcome, guys. So let us begin. So let us begin today's program. Welcome to the very first personal and professional development webinar from the University of Cape Town Golden Key chapter. We're excited that you decided to join us this morning in pursuit of self-improvement. There's an organization that espouses such value. It is the Golden Key International Honor Society. The society honors the academic excellence of top performing graduates across all fields of study, with representation in countries such as Australia, Canada, New Zealand, India, Malaysia, the Bahamas, the United States, and South Africa. Founded on the pillars of academics, leadership, and service, Golden Key reminds us to be the best that we can be. My name is Hlengiwe Londiwe, and I serve in the executive committee at the University of Cape Town's Golden Key chapter alongside Marcy Alaso, and together we will be your hosts for this webinar. Marcy, please say hello to the people before we proceed.
Thank you, Helen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session. We are amazed to have all of you. The numbers are amazing. Thank you. It's going to be a very informative session. Miriam is an amazing person, and we're all going to learn a lot from her. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Marcy. In today's program, we will commence with the keynote address that will be followed by a Q&A session that will be facilitated by Marcy. This will then be followed by a closing remarks session from our co-presidents. Please feel free to post any questions that you may have in our Q&A function that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. And some of these questions will be selected to be covered in our Q&A session that is soon to come. Now, I am a firm believer in the Japanese Kaizen principle of continuous improvement. And if there's one area of my life that I do not mind continuously improving in, it is in my finances. And I assure you there's been questionable decision-making in that area in the past, but we live and we learn. The wonderful thing is that we don't only need to learn from our own experiences, but we can learn from the experiences of others. So that is what I'm hoping for today, that we can remain open to deriving a seed or two and to plant in our own lives in pursuit of financial knowledge and financial freedom. And to help us with that this morning is a phenomenal young woman named Miriam Mathebula. She has extensive experience in the financial industry. She currently serves in a role related to finance for youth in one of the leading financial institutions in the country. She also has a passion project that she has initiated called the Corporate Athlete Club. We are honored to have her in our midst this morning. We hope that you enjoyed today's session as much as we have enjoyed getting to know Miriam. And without any further ado, please welcome Miriam Mathebula.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And just to check the audio, Marcy, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to spend the morning with you this morning. I see there's quite a number of people who have decided to wake up on a Saturday. As well, Kenyue, thank you so much for engaging me and just giving me all the information leading up to this day. I'm so excited and I'm truly, truly honored to be part of this day today. So we'll get right into it. And before I just introduce myself and what is it that makes me tick, I just want to talk a little bit about the corporate athlete. So I started this, during the pandemic last year, where I was really feeling like, oh my goodness, actually corporate, there's no goal or games. You know, we talk about how, it's such a game. People are just playing games. It's an actual sport. And I felt like, you know what, this ladder, this corporate ladder that people were talking about does not exist. It's actually a maze. And it's very difficult to navigate it, given all that's happening. And I found myself, in during lockdown, at home and just asking myself, so how are you expected to navigate this maze? You know, when you're at home, when no one is seeing you, when you're feeling all these emotions from the lockdown, how do I actually get ahead? As ambitious as I am, how do I actually make sure that I get to the top? And I started to think that there are many people who are probably thinking like me. So I started this club to really, foster this positivity around corporate, because again, there's lots of negative things around corporate. But I mean, corporate SA employs about 10 million people. It's dropped now because of lockdown, and so 10 million people can't necessarily start businesses all at the same time. So we have to find ways of navigating corporate like a boss, like our. Because today, I mean, we are really talking about finance. I really want to get into that. But before that, the one greatest of all time basketball player that I like, that's on the next slide, Kobe Bryant. I mean, he lives and created a mentality that is the Mamba mentality. And if we would just go to the next slide, Klengi, it's something that I like. And the whole corporate athlete is about, looking at what is it that sportsmen and women do on the sports field that we can learn from and apply in the office. And if you would ask any athlete, they will tell you what they do and how they keep themselves motivated in order for them to be number one. It's not automatic. And so in the corporate world as well, it is not automatic. And therefore you need a purpose and something bigger than yourself to really hold yourself against. And the quote, I'm not sure if you're seeing it on your side, but I'm not seeing it on mine. It says, it's a constant quest to try to be better today than you were yesterday. I mean, Klengi said that in terms of finance, she is always trying to improve. It means to be able to constantly try to be the best version of yourself. And this is in different areas, whether it is corporate, whether it is finance, just your relations with people, there's room for you to grow every single day. Klengi, I'm not sure if you are able to change to the next slide. It's on one slide on my side.
Okay, so I'm on the I am Mirriam Mathebula slide. Which one are you seeing?
I'm seeing the first slide too.
This is all the first slide.
Yeah.
All right. Let's share afresh.
Cool. Okay, I see it now.
You do.
But now I see your face again.
You've stopped sharing. There we go.
Okay. Do you see it now? Do you guys see? Okay.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Awesome. So quite in short, I mean, we have all these lengthy bios, but in short, really, I'm Mirriam Mathebula. I've recently been appointed as a head of youth at one of the Green Banks. I was born in Middelburg, and I'm a wife and a sister, a mom of 2 daughters, beautiful daughters, and I love creating. So I am Christian, and I believe, and therefore I'm like him, and I like creating concepts, cool concepts, and new and strategies, and other cool stuff in between. The things that really make me tick, and they're on the next slide, is really 3 things. I'm quite passionate about young people. View is that sometimes we forget that or rather we think that finding a passion should be something very, very hectic, or it's only certain people who find their passion. But it is through the things that I like doing, that I gravitate to, that I've actually found my passion. And I'm so grateful that even at work, I'm within the youth space. I remember back in Sunday school, I was a Sunday school teacher. When I think back, I was like, what was I doing? But I think all those things, kind of then were proof points that, listen, actually, I love young people, and I'm young at heart as well. I'm a fan of being impactful, and I really hope that today I will bring some impact, or just bring thoughts that you would then look at. Okay, before I used to think like this, but after I had this talk, this is what I'm going to do after. This is a picture of Santon. This was on the before side. That's the picture of what Santon used to look like, and this is what it looks like today. So I like walking into a place, understanding what is the problem to be solved, understanding what is it that needs changing, and then when I'm done, I would love to see results. A short story about myself. My first ever not first ever, but my job after my graduate program, there was a report that took 4 hours to put together. For some reason, I do not know why, but when I left, that report took 10 minutes to do, because I automated and made sure that things are efficient. Sometimes we look at our lives and we think that to be big, or to measure success, we need to be like so huge. But it's in the small things that make a difference in someone else's life, in the department's efficiency space. Those are the things that are important, and they are important to me. And for you, think about what are the things that you are passionate about, number one, or what makes you tick. And also from an impactful perspective, what are the small things that you have done, and use that to motivate yourself. The last thing is that you cannot box me. I'm unboxable. Leave the box out. I'm multifaceted, and as human beings, we tend to go through. Then you need to go to high school, then you need to go to varsity, you need to study accounting, and then you be an accountant. I've realized that life is not about that. I've got so many talents, and as human beings, we generally do, and you're starting to see the gig economy, or you're starting to see people chasing their passions and actually making money from their passions. And so I'd like us to really think outside of the box, and stop boxing ourselves, stop boxing people, because the power lies in you actually using all the talents that you have. So without wasting any time, I'm getting into what we are here today. And because of the corporate athlete, I love speaking in sports terms. My local team is Kaizer Chiefs. a moment of silence, because really my team has been. I note their win, in the last game. But I really like analyzing sports and how I use that to convey my message. So we are all in a locker room, and depending on what the team is how the team is winning or losing, in a particular match, the coach will have something very specific for that moment to say to this particular team in a locker room. When they're losing, obviously, the strategies about, motivating the guys to come back. When they're winning, the message is probably more positive. And if it's not, they probably think, they're going to win this and then they don't. So it's very important, to have locker room conversations with yourself to say, okay, where am I in my life right now? And, how am I going to tackle the next half of the match or the beginning of the match? So in the next slide, I talk about, or rather we in this session, and it is halftime, right? It is halftime in our lives, and the score is 0-0. No, we're not losing, we're not winning, but we're in a moment where we need to decide, okay, what and how do we go forward? So let's set the context. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of uncertainty, and that is because of the ongoing pandemic. It's not new, we know, right? We've recently had the budget speech, and honestly, I didn't do a thorough review of the budget speech, but I did catch, a particular points that are of interest to me, being. And really, the one thing that I could just pick out is that I didn't really feel the confidence. And I mean, hence you are seeing strikes, and you are seeing, another fees must fall, and everything that's happening around that. So there's also that, causing the anxiety around students and around young people. Then let's bring it back to us, the context of personal finances. Whether we like it or not, pandemic or not, our personal finances are always affected, by whatever is happening, whether it's in our immediate families or a global pandemic. So the context is that, and we can't ignore that. So in the next slide, I'm really just saying, okay, what are the money sentiments? And I was reading a Cantor report that summarizes this, right? It says 80% of South Africans believe they need to be more proactive about their financial planning, of course, because 2020 showed us flames. It showed us that, you can have a job today and nothing tomorrow. And obviously that trickles down to students or to everyone, because if mom lost job, what happens to, my finances? What happens to my allowance? Businesses are cutting down on costs. They might be cutting down on bursaries, and therefore we are affected. Therefore, South Africans are saying, actually, we need to be more proactive about financial planning. And the three money sentiments are really around saving money, reducing debt, and sticking to a budget, right? Whilst everybody wants this, and I'm sure there's people here who can relate that I want to save more money, I want to reduce my debt, and probably you will be meeting more debt when you getting into the workspace, because the first debt you probably ever have to worry about is your student loan. And it's like, oh my gosh, guys, it was so hard to just get this degree, and now I must face, paying it off. But that's the beginning of adulting 101, if you haven't already experienced adulting. However, I don't know if this is a good thing or should make us feel good or bad, but the truth is, in all these three things, more than 60% of people are actually unable to do this, even though it's something that they want. So what I'm saying is that don't feel alone. It is not, you're not alone, in this situation in terms of how you think about your money. I just want to shift to the left of the screen where the quote says, money and I have one night stands. We don't know what that is, right? I cannot hold on to money for long. as money for long. Much as I love the idea of saving or having a long-term relationship, there's always something I will find to spend on. So this is like a general sentiment, that people have, that money, sure, once I have it, like it's gone, even when I want to. So how do we do it? Now, next slide, we talk about the game plan. Remember, we are in a locker room. And before I actually get into the locker room, there's this quote that I saw, or somebody said, who was actually analyzing the budget speech, and they said, if you don't have a plan for your money, somebody will have a plan for you. And that is true, like whether you like it or not. And this could be in the very smallest of things. When somebody says, friend, let's go out for coffee, they're already suggesting a plan for your money, and we should be very vigilant in terms of our money and very intentional about it. So what's the game plan? How do we get into them? Now, let's talk about the good old budget, right? And I'm not talking about having one. I am praying and hoping that in this day and age, after such a pandemic, we all have a budget. I'd love to ask who has a budget that's set, and you can pop it in the chat and just say, and it's okay. I mean, it's a safe space. If you don't have a budget, it's okay. If you have a budget, just pop it, whether you have a budget or not, just pop it in the chat and say, I actually do have a budget. I don't have a budget. But what I'm talking about today is really sticking to one and not the one in your head. One of the money mistakes that I've made was having a budget in my head. Like I had an illusion that I have a budget, but it's actually in my head. I'll talk about, oh yeah, no, this month I'll budget for this. My budget says, but the budget actually doesn't exist until you write it down, my friends. It's not a budget. And the second thing around a budget is taking your bank statement and actually comparing it to your budget, because that's the proper way of budgeting. Because you can say that you have a budget and you kind of know what you're spending on. You've actually written it down. That's great, tick. But when you look at your bank statement, it doesn't correspond to your budget. So how effective really is your budget? And you can maybe do this over whether it's a monthly thing or after 2 months. But I think I would implore you and really just encourage you to always check your bank statement against your budget. I like this rule of thumb as the next point that says you can look at your budget in a way that speaks to the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of needs. So there are things, and I like the fact that it's in percentages, right? Because we often think that people with a budget are supposed to be people with a lot of money. That's the biggest myth that we just need to kill. And before I continue, I just want you to look at that quote on the side there that says, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training. What that means is that in a time of a crisis, in a time of a serious thing like understanding your finances, we're never gonna act in a way that we aspire to be. Ourselves to be. So if you want to be an excellent budgeter or excellent with your money, you need to train, and the only way you're going to get there is if you've trained yourself to do so. Because we want to be better version of ourselves, but in a time of crisis, there's no way we can be the better version of ourselves if we haven't trained for it. And so on that point, I want to make that it starts with what you have, or start with what you have. It does not mean that you need a lot of money to apply this rule. Do I apply this rule? Maybe not, not all the time. But the fact that I know that it's there, and I can sort of try to really, when doing my budget, think about this, helps me to get there. And there's another thing, right? Being intentional about your money is progressive. You don't just wake up and you're good with your money. It's something that you need to be in a relationship with. Remember that one night stand? You need to start building a longer term relationship and not be hard on yourself. So I like the fact that budgeting doesn't mean that you don't have to have nice things. I mean, we like nice things, but it just says plan for the nice things. And if it's not planned in the nice things, number one, your bank statement will tell you that, listen, you spent on this, it was not on the budget. But 30% goes to your wants. And one thing, the last point that I want to say around this is that in the research and the studies that we are seeing, something like black tax is creeping up from being a want or something that you want to do, but something that you need to do, because whether you like it or not, there's people who are up to you to help them. So what's the word? Strict about it. If you're a student and you're getting money from a bursary, you're not working, you're not the breadwinner yet. And therefore you need to be very strict around what is it that you can do for your family and what you can't. A bursary and an allowance is for you to be able to live, throughout your varsity life. It is not to support your home. It's a very hard statement, but sometimes we need to get people on the same page as where we at, and really be realistic about where we are in our lives. Now you can ask and say, okay, like, Miriam, really, where is the money that you're talking about? Where's the 50%, the 30%? A short story. My mom used to send me 200 Rand when I was still at UJ back in, I started my varsity in 2007. Fine, I would have had the groceries from home, but then here's 200 Rand, and I'm like, Mom, and it's not that she didn't want to, but I mean, it's what you could give me. And I think she also didn't understand the lifestyle. I mean, I'm from Middelburg, everything I needed was at home. She didn't really understand, okay, why do I need money? I'm there to study. And that's the thing, right? Our parents like, okay, just focus on studying. It's like, okay, but we need to live, and so how do we find this money? Now, I've got subscriptions that I was looking at the other day. It was for a phone, in fact, for an insurance for a phone that I don't even know where that phone is. I never claimed clearly when I lost the phone. But then there are subscriptions that are going off your bank account. If you're not studying, your bank statement, you're not going to know about them. So when you start studying your bank statement, you're going to see that, okay, the stuff that's coming off that I need to really, sort out and cancel. Review your contracts, your cell phone contracts. The reason why, that MTN will charge you X amount is because you're paying for the phone and you're paying for the data bundles or the minutes that comes with it. Review your contract when you're done paying for the phone, which is usually after 2 years according to the contract. Make changes, reduce the number of, or reduce your contracts or whatever. And if it's your parents, that has this contract for you, have that conversation with them. That money could be going towards you or towards other costs. Don't be a hero. This is my favorite one. We like just trying to, keep it together. We like to be the ones who are going to pay for drinks when we're out. And it's really not necessary. Like, be very real with where you are. And when you don't have the money to do something, do not spend the money that you don't have, especially when you are getting an irregular income, and sometimes that's very common with students. One month my mom would send me 200 Rand, the other month she'll send me 1,000 Rand. So I never know when I'm actually going to have a lot of money. So being a hero when I am balling with 1,000 Rand a month, it doesn't help because I don't know what's going to come next month. So finding the money is really about understanding what's going in and out of your finances and actually canceling and doing away with stuff you do not need. And I mean, the list is endless, where, getting water from the tap instead of buying bottled water. I love my bottled water, but really, I mean, we have actually, okay, I don't know about in other places, but in water from Rand water, drink water from the tap. There's the little thing, pack your own lunch, really look at where I could cut off, money and find it within your budgets. avoid bad debt. I mean, there's good debts and bad debts. And from in my books, really, good debts only speaks to a car and a house. I'm sure financial experts will tell you, differently. But from what I understand, those are the only good debts that I want to be involved in. Did I have bad debts? When I started out, of course, I had an account at Identity, and for me, it was like, okay, I'm getting 200 rand. I might as well, just find ways of, looking good when I'm on campus. And so I opened an Identity account. But it was also, because of the thought of, oh, apparently you need to have some form of credit so that you can be able to get debt financed when you want a car later on, which is somewhat true. And there's this theories of a scorecard, which I'll probably get to later if we have time. But I don't buy clothes on credit. If I can't afford it, it's done. I will either save for it, lay by if I want to. But during lockdown, I was so happy because we didn't really have to dress up. So I didn't really need new clothes, and I'm still trying to work on my weight because we gained weight, I'm losing weight, so I don't have to buy clothes. But if I can't buy it on cash, forget it, I'm not buying it. This is something that I obviously had to learn over time. After my Identity account, I also outgrew the whole, that time I outgrew the whole Identity look. So I closed it. As soon as I could, I closed it. The furniture in my house is cash. I don't buy furniture on credit. I'd rather save for it. And I remember, we were having Christmas the first year we got married, my husband and I, and his family was coming over. And I wanted this couch that we still have today, which we've refurbished, by the way, to make it look fresh. It was white. We've got kids now, so it's another color, which is something else, that we can use to save money. Refurbish what you have, and instead of buying new stuff. So his family is coming over, and we don't have a couch. And I'm like, please, can we buy this on credit? Where are people going to sit? And he was like, we are not buying a couch on credit for people who are going to come one day, eat our food, and then they're gone. And we are stuck with the debt for years. No. And I remember it was camp chairs, it was on the floor, it was like a pit, it was so nice. And probably the 2 weeks later, we were then able to afford the couch. That story is so important for me because, it is in the a saying that simply means, what are they going to say, the people, when, they come into my house and I don't have the freshest stuff? Hey, I'm not going to get stuck in debt for other people. No. And that speaks to the next point. Do not sign co-debts with people. Even I know a friend who signed a rental contract, because their finances didn't look good. She had a home and her friend was looking for rent and she was a co-signature. That thing haunted her for years. Don't take debt with someone. Don't take debt for someone, whether it is to please them or whether it is your girlfriend, your boyfriend. Don't. Revolving credit, for me, no. That thing is a hole. You just keep getting, you don't get out of it. So, have I taken debt? Yes. There was a time when my sister needed, I needed to either, I think it was registration or pay off her school fees at the time. Was that for someone? Yes, it was for my sister. Was it right? Hey, I did the right thing. I helped her out. I'm at a better place now. And that's another point that I want to raise, right? There's a particular point in your life where you're going to feel like there's no way you're going to make the money that you're going to make because your needs are so much. But it does become better with time. When I started working, I always said to my boss, and Klingi, we can move to the next slide. I used to say to my boss, how are you able to go on an overseas trip every single year? there's no way I can get there. And she's like, Miriam, it gets better with time. You get smarter with time. You build a relationship. And I want to say that always approach your budgeting and your relationship with money from a place of abundance. Because we were always told that there's no money. At home, it's always like, there's no money. Like, so that has grown in us that we don't have money and we'll never have money. Approach it in such a way that you're saying, there's actually abundance. There's lots of ways that I can get to having money. Therefore, approach it from a place of abundance. I'm going to go through this very shortly, and I think I'm almost done. So there are 3 financial plans that I came across, and I really like them. And they're kind of very long term, right? And as young people, we often want something that's going to work now. And this is not even just young people, everyone. We want something that's going to work now. But what I like about investing, having a financial plan, when you are younger, you actually add an advantage because of one thing and one thing only: compound interest. The longer you save, the more you will get, or the more your money will be worth. You'll see here, I've indicated years, and none of them say months. And before I get into it, and let me just quickly, get this out the way. I don't understand Forex. I don't understand Bitcoin. And my advice always is to say, and I'm not a financial advisor, just by the way, so please do seek financial advice. My advice, right, is that if you do not understand something, don't get into it. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. Am I saying Bitcoin and Forex are not good? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't understand. And I will never, if I ever try, in fact, I downloaded Luno, try to understand what's going on, what's happening. But I told myself, there's no way I'm going to put money into something that I don't know how long it's going to last. And I mean, I've got to learn that one Bitcoin costs about 700,000 now. So no one person can actually, well, not can, but I don't know a lot of people that own a full Bitcoin. They're buying percentages of it. And I'm watching it and I'm learning and I'm observing and I'm okay. Come to me with a Bitcoin. I am not interested. I'm dizzy. I need to understand it for myself. Now, get rich certain. This is something that, you are thinking about and planning for a long term, right? But it's certain. While you're putting away money, it's not a lot of interest that you're getting from it. You don't talk about it. It's something that you probably have with your bank. It's not too hectic, right? You're getting 5% from it, but you have a 30-year plan for it. It could be your salary, that you are trying to improve over the day. It's certain. It's something that, your plan is around, something that is certain. It's boring. It's passive. It's okay. It's for when you retire. It is really something that, you don't have to think about today. And I'm not talking about 10,000 Rand in I'm talking about 50 Rand, because that's what you can afford, but it's going in an account that you don't have to think about. Get rich smart is now you then getting to understand and getting to know that, oh, okay, this bank is giving me this interest rate and this market, is this, it's giving me this interest rate. It costs this much. There's apps out there that talk about shares. You are playing in the stock market, but you're learning about investing and things that have already been there. And the big 3 that people talk about, it's really stocks, it's business, and it's real estate, right? Those are the things that, you start really understanding it. By real estate, I mean, there's many categories. You can either buy into a property fund, or you can buy property that you use as, something to invest in. But it's really a 10-year game. It's something that you're not also wanting to get something from it today. Then there's get rich fast. And this again is not months, it's between 5 to 7 years. What is the money that you're putting away? But this is more, right? And again, it's something where you're looking for a high interest rate, and also could talk to actually your savings that are long term. By long term is really just a year, but when you've dipped into those savings, you repay back again. You're looking into that you can double quickly. Last words, really, we are in that locker room. We're about to go onto the pitch. We're about to go into the game. What do I have to say to you? Forgive yourself for your past money mistakes. It's okay that you were not budgeting the right way. Seek ways of doing it better. Save from what you have and start now. You have the time. We often think that, especially when we're younger, we don't have to. That's when we have time. When you're older, you don't. Create habits that force you to save. I have a debit order. Before I even know what my salary is like, there's a money that's already gone into my saving account. Have a real budget, especially if you have irregular income. Invest in yourself. That's a very critical skill, especially in nowadays, right? Increase your earning potential and I mean, we can get into, things like that in terms of how do I make money? But really, companies are looking for new skills now. And the new skills talk about, copywriting, digital marketing. And, there are things that, you can do outside of your specific, not industry, but outside of your discipline. So whether you're in medicine or whatever the case is, just teach yourself about something else that is outside of that. Educate yourself about investment products. Like I said, don't invest in something that you don't understand. There's no quick wins. Create a long-term relationship with your money. That's it from me. I go by the name of Mirriam Mathebula, the corporate athlete on our socials. And those are my social handles. That's my website. You can join the club. The club, really, what I'm doing right now is every Monday, 8 a.m., I send out an email around just my thoughts around career, which is my passion, career, finance, and wellness. And I have a quarterly magazine that I drop, and there's a magazine that's coming out also just featuring people who are doing the great work in society. That's me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for those nuggets. Really, just reminding us to use the factor of compound interest while we still have it in our advantage, and reminding us it's the small things that really matter. It's that excellence in the small daily habits that lead to that much bigger financial goal. And I really just loved that aspect of not being boxed, because we want people to really go out there and define their own canvas in life and really paint their own way, whether it be their financial trajectory or otherwise, but really be the captain of their own ships. So thank you so much for that. Marcy is currently going to just take over with some of the questions that we received over the week and some of the questions that we received this morning. Marcy, please take over.
Thank you. My camera is off. Natasha, could you please help with that? There you go. Thank you very much, Miriam. That was amazing. I feel like I need a little longer local session with you because I need that. I need to change very many things in my life right now. Thank you. We got a number of questions from Golden Key members before this event, prior to this event, and would like you to shed some light on them because they are really impactful questions. One of them was from Dorothy. She asks, How can the young improve their personal finance in the troubling times we're experiencing to ensure that we're prepared for a future crisis? Miriam, do you want to answer that now?
Yes. So, look, I wish I can say that there's a quick way, right? But one thing that I have learned over the years is, well, not even over the years, is that you need to, and I wish I learned this when I was younger, or I wish I did this before I started working even. But investing in yourself is so important. And I want to take you back to when I was in, I think I was in high school. I remember I went to I was probably in primary school because I went on a Cape Town tour that happens in grade 7. And, I got to learn about Cape Town. And long story short, I got invited to our community radio station, and just to share my experience about my my trip to Cape Town. And then I started getting called to this radio station. I honestly look back and I wish that I had improved my my speaking capabilities, and I wish I harnessed that relationship. I wish right now I could have been asked to come and review my trip to Paris. I wish I really honed in on that. So there's a lot of things that we do that we think we're just doing them, but actually they can become your passion, right? And so there are trying times, but within a crisis, and I mean, I can't remember if it's a Japanese saying, but within crisis, there's both opportunity and there's obviously where we are crying about, okay, there's a crisis. So grab the opportunities. What opportunities have come by? I started the corporate athlete in a time where it was really, it seemed like it's doom and gloom. And now being called even to such, events to come and speak. What did I do? I have an app that actually I use to practice speaking. So and there's things like Toastmasters and an end. So I have this app, it's called Orai, and I use it to practice speaking, and it actually tells me how my tone is. It tells me that I'm pronouncing things properly. What am I doing? I'm enhancing and I'm investing in myself, because that has become a skill where people have been called to webinars and they can be paid for what they do, right? There's corporate writing, copywriting skills. Why? Because there's digital marketing. People are at home, and therefore companies are looking for copywriters. Companies are looking for people to look after their digital or social media accounts. What is it that you can point out as an opportunity that you can actually teach yourself? Guys, I'm teaching myself how to code. There's an app called Bubble. It's an app that creates app. It's an app for creating apps. So it's a website for creating apps. I create my own websites. I use WordPress. I teach myself things that I wouldn't have known. Why? Because someone somewhere out there needs that, and they can pay me for it. And so use the time now to learn skills that can be needed later or is already being needed today.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you.
Question.
I believe it does. I'm sure she's in the audience. I believe it answers the question. Thank you. We also have another one. What are the best long-term investments that young people should take to look into to achieve a financial freedom in the future? What would you advise us to take as young people right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are different kind of investments, and you can look at banks, right? They have your fixed deposits that you can, take out. And again, it's one of those get rich certain things where you're literally just depositing 50 Rand, right? A little bit, what I have loved that has come out of our government is, and that, simply is that the government is in the plight to really help us save as South Africans. They are saying that they will not tax us when we withdraw from our this tax saving instrument. it is not to be used as something where you go for a rainy day fund. It's really something that you can put in your money for a long term. And please do research tax-free savings. The advice is that, I mean, as banks, we do have tax-free savings accounts, but the advice is that don't even have it with your bank. There are other investment houses like your Allen Gray, your Coronation, that have the tax-free saving product, and rather have it with them, because then you don't get to see it. And what that really means, right? And because I like this topic. What it simply means is that how it works, the maximum amount that you can save a year is 36,000, right? As a person. But you can save a minimum of 250 to 500 rand, because depending on who you take it with, some people require you to, take out 500 rand as a minimum. Some it's 250. So you do your research. Who, at the time that you want, to take out this tax-free saving, who would you go with, depending on your needs, right? And this can seem like, okay, only 36,000 per year, 250. Are you sure? So a small calculation is that in the next 14 years of you doing this, right, you could have put away about 500K. But because of compound interest over 14 years, your money will be worth 1 million. So when you actually then retire, you then have more, that you've saved for. And the myth is that as young people, we say, no, young to start thinking about our retirement plan, or I'll start planning and saving through my employer, for my retirement plan. So when you really start to think about long-term saving investments, you need to think about the fact that I need to start now. I need to start with what I have, and the best in the market right now is a tax-free saving account, because you're not going to get taxed when you take out your money later on.
Thank you very much for that. In the chat, we're having people say, want another session, we want this topic again, we need more guidance from you. This was very informative. Thank you very much for that. I think that's a wrap for now, because we're running short of time. We can end there, and we believe that this has really helped all of us. We have learned a lot. Thank you very much, Miriam. I'm going to go back and change my lifestyle. Helen, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you so much for that Q&A session. Some of the questions that we were not able to respond to, we will still share with Miriam, and any information that we're able to collate together, we will still share through our social media platforms or via email. So please just look out for those social media pages, and we may be in touch with some of those responses. Thank you so much, Marcy, for running the Q&A session for us. And a ship is not quite the same without, captains, and our co-captains are Kristen and Dooley, and they will be leading us in terms of our closing remarks and any commentary that they want to share with the team. Thank you. Please take over, Dooley and Kristen.
Thank you so much, Lengiwe. First of all, I just want to give a huge thank you to Miriam for taking the time out of her day to come and speak to us, especially on a Saturday morning. And I can say personally, for me, it has been very worthwhile to just sit and listen to you and hear from your experiences and your expertise. And definitely, I also need to start making small changes to my life and how I sort of budget. I do have, as you mentioned, a mental budget is what I would call it as well. So definitely starting to build that relationship with money. And I think what stood out most for me from what you said was sort of starting to research and really looking into your big life purchases when you get older. So things like buying a house, buying a car. And one thing that I really enjoy doing just in my spare time is sort of, looking into those things, looking at if I were to buy a certain car on credit, how much would it cost, in the long term, not just in the actual price of the car, but if you have to pay insurance, if you have to pay back your loan on that car with interest, with inflation, how much does all of that cost? The same with a house. These things are big investments. They really impact your credit score. Also learning in general how your credit score works, just those small things. And even if you just start looking around, if you buy a house in this area, how much does it cost? What are the options of asset growth in something like property? If you want to rent it out, how is the value of that sort of area going to grow in the next 10, 15 years? And sort of looking at, where you think you want to be in the next 10 years, because we are still quite young, and seeing what sort of things are you looking at, what is achievable for you. And I think also what you said about, starting to invest early and looking at the sort of taxes and how taxes work and inflation, and understanding how those things affect your lifestyle. And as you said, it's in the small things, and it's in building that relationship with your money and starting at a young age to put money away and to look at where you can sort of put your money in these investment vehicles that will allow your money to grow, even if some of us haven't started working yet, or we've just started working. And one thing that I plan to do after your session today is to look at what sort of free personal finance courses are available, so that I can start learning more about budgeting and really, really planning for the time ahead, and looking at the different investment vehicles and the risks involved, and then the time horizon, how your income redistribution works. Because even as I've done quite a lot of finance, but it is corporate finance, and I realized at first I thought, this will help me with my own money, but it's quite different to personal finances. So it's a whole different field, and it is something that's very important. And there is a whole lot of information, just Googling simple things, watching short YouTube clips on how things work. I think even though it's something I've only started really recently, I'd say since December, it's really opened up my eyes to how important knowing what you're getting into is, as you said earlier, like knowing not to take loans for people or co-sign on things, because the financial implications of that, we don't often know. When we get into these things, we kind of just say, oh, I need this loan, so then I take out this loan, and we don't realize that we have to read the small print, that we have to take the time to really understand what we're getting into with this loan. And as you said, there's a lot of ways that you can start making money. And I really like how you broke down the different, the 3-year plan, the 10-year plan, and the different time horizons that we have. And I think it's really important for people around our age to start looking at using this time to learn about these bigger life purchases, even if we don't have the money for it now, or it's not something that we're looking at specifically getting into in the next 5 to 6 years. Just learning how these things work and sort of looking at that, so that when the time does come for us to get into that, we're not, shocked and overwhelmed, and all these sort of confusion and things come over us. So that was a huge thing for me. And then another thing that I just wanted to touch on was what you also mentioned about a lot of South Africans not being able to save, and the relatively low national savings rates. And because I'm an economics student, so I have been able to learn a bit more about macroeconomic theory, and what it shows is that in any country, if a lot of people save in a bank, it means that banks can lend more to businesses for them to invest, which means that they can hire more people, which improves, citizen welfare, and it grows the economy. And something that we saw with COVID-19 is it really impacted a lot of businesses' ability to survive. A lot of people were retrenched because the company just couldn't afford to keep them. And particularly in South Africa, which is quite an interesting case, I think there's a lot of South Africans have a very complicated relationship with money, and there's a lot of reasons why we have a low national savings rate. You know, a lot of people don't make enough money to even like be able to ends meet at the end of the month, which is a whole nother discussion that people can get into. But a huge part of the reason why we don't have a very high savings rate is also because a lot of people just have very inadequate financial literacy. And that is, it's a really big problem because people don't understand the basics of how money works, how financial institutions work. And I think it's really powerful what you're doing in trying to teach young people that they really need to take ownership of it and they really need to learn for themselves what is out there. So that is all from me. I will hand over to Dooley to just finish off for us.
Thanks, Kristen. Look, you've covered quite a lot of points and quite a lot of good points. And from my side, I'd like to thank you, Miriam, once again. The session was really insightful. And personally, for me, I'm more of a high risk, high reward type of person. But I will echo your words and say that, you know, people should definitely do their research before jumping into any sort of investment product. You know, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. And just to round off, like the importance of being financially savvy cannot really be underestimated, especially with what's been going on with 2020, and especially at a young age. I think that's where the emphasis should be. And, you know, for consumers or anyone in the country to be able to sort of understand the financial landscape or manage financial risks or to avoid like financial pitfalls and things like that, you know, it requires a strong understanding of financial principles. And I feel that, you know, what better way to emphasize these principles at a young age? Because, I mean, you know, one financially literate person can sort of, you know, change the generation going forward or influence the generation going forward. And another thing, you spoke about the budget. I myself digested it a little bit. But I must say that, you know, the South African government has sort of recognized the importance of having a financially literate country. And I think it was this time last year where the National Treasury, the FSCA, I think, and other stakeholders, they rolled out what they called the Money Smart Week South Africa 2020 campaign. I think it's www.mswsa.coza.co.za, which was a campaign aimed at empowering South Africans to become, you know, better educated about their finances. And the great thing about it is that it took a national collaborative approach and it sort of expanded to a variety of industries, including financial institutions, NGOs, public benefit organizations and companies, schools and universities at large. But as I mentioned, yes, the emphasis needs to be among the youth and particularly in the South African school curriculum, because we've heard a lot of school experts or education experts call for like major changes in the curriculum. And others have suggested things like robotics and coding, you know, things that complement the fourth industrial revolution. But I feel that on top of that list, financial literacy should be a major focus area, especially, you know, on the whole agenda of nation building and if you want to build an e-skilled economy. But thank you so much, Miriam.
Thank you so much for that insight and commentary from our co-presidents. Just our main mission with these workshops is just really to bring to you pertinent knowledge related to various topics, to equip you as best as possible to be the best version of yourself. This is the first of many of our workshops, so please do stay in touch on our social media pages for upcoming webinars and various other engagements that we will be having with you throughout the year. I just want to say a few thank yous before we do depart this morning. I'd like to say thank you first and foremost to Miriam Mathebula for taking the time out to just share her insights with us this morning. And then I'd like to thank the Golden Key Southern Africa, and then specifically Haraj for just being phenomenal in the organization and build up to today. Thank you so much for the key role that you played. And then to say thank you to the Golden Key chapter. And last but certainly not least is to say thank you to each and every single one of you for taking the time out to be with us this morning. I hope that you were able to derive that nugget or that seed or two that you're planning to plant in your own life. And I do wish you the very best in all your endeavors as you chart out to become the best that you can be. Go out for your dreams and go for it big. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye.